show where we count things down from number 5 all the way to number 1. And just as the month is closing out, we are not letting this holiday season slip away without another scary-themed top 5. This week on the show, top 5 horror movies from the 90s. Top 5 horror movies from the 90s. Matthew, what do you got for your number 5?
My number 5 horror movie from the 90s is actually a really unexpectedly good film. It is a cross-genre film because it's a horror slash superhero film. And I maintain to this day that it is the perfect superhero film. I'm talking about 1990s epic, beautiful, perfect Darkman. Which is, of course, a Sam Raimi joint starring Liam Neeson in the role that really made me notice that Liam Neeson was a person named Liam Neeson, although apparently Stephen has pointed out he's been around since the mid-'70s.
Yeah.
Darkman is the story of a doctor who is caught in a terrible explosion. It gives him weird powers, but it also terrifies him and makes him kind of a creepy weirdo. So the Swamp Thing / Man Thing origin. But the real horror of the piece doesn't necessarily come from the body horror of Liam Neeson. That is gross. It is super gross. But the real horror is the villain of the piece. And normally I hate a villain who's just evil for the sake of evil. But the villain of Darkman is Robert Durant, played by Larry Drake. Larry Drake is probably best known for playing a learning disabled man on LA Law for several years. Here, he is the scariest thing I've ever seen because he underplays everything. And to this day, there's a scene in the movie that is so horrifying and it sticks with me. It's like in the back of my head at all times. He has this thing about fingers and he smokes cigars and he has a cigar cutter. And so he is trying to get someone to tell him what he wants to know. And he's like, first, chop off a finger. I have a lot of anger. I try not to let my anger get the better of me. 2, he chops off a finger. I don't always succeed. 3, he chops off a finger and he looks the man in the face and he says, I've got 7 more points. That chills the blood. If you've never seen Darkman, really unexpectedly good movie. Roger Ebert, of all people, said, hey, this movie that everybody says is kind of trash is actually pretty good. I do recommend it. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, if you can see it anymore. There are sequels that don't have Liam Neeson, but probably the best of the Darkman oeuvre for me, Darkman the First from 1990.
Yeah, I typed that wrong. I was looking up to see where it was streaming. I typed in Dark Ham, and it pointed me to my local Dillon's, and I was like, "Well, I don't think that's quite right." And then I was like, "Oh no,
Black Forest Ham."
Yeah.
Yummy.
Well, that's if you know what's going on with Black Forest Ham and the company that releases that, that's a horror story in and of itself. Anyway, let us go to my number 5. I do enjoy a really good urban legend. Especially when you're like, I don't know if this is true or not. Certainly most urban legends are not true. But this one is really a good one where if you watch this accursed videotape, 7 days later, you will die. And this reporter woman finds this tape and she plays it and her son plays it. And they get the phone call the next day and it's like 7 days. And she needs to figure out the mystery of the ring, or else her kid is going to die. And there's some pretty horrible things that take place in this. It's, of course, based on a Japanese story. But it has this woman that crawls out of the... Oh, no, I'm thinking of the grunge for that one. But this idea of this accursed videotape and how she works her way around... And this may be problematic with the 2020 whatever version of It Follows, because the ending of The Ring and the ending of It Follows are kind of the same, where you can get around the curse by passing the curse along to somebody else. But The Ring, when it came out in theaters, really a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. 2000. Well, it's The Grunge is my, or I'm sorry, not The Grunge. The Ring is my number 5.
Yeah, the girl in the well is from The Ring.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of the girl that
she does
crawl out of the
come
TV?
out of the TV.
Okay, all right.
So in the 2002 version, at least she does.
Okay.
I don't know. I've never actually seen the 1998 version.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. So yeah,
Ringu has the same sort of thing. The Grudge does have a similar kind of a J-horror monster in it, but yeah, you're definitely thinking of Samara from The Ring.
Yeah. So there you go. That is my number 5. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 5?
My number 5 is not a good movie, and that might be kind of a theme for me when I was like, what are the horror movies from the 90s that I watched that made some sort of impact? I'm like, wow, this list is actually terrible. But it's on here because it's worth talking about, and that is 1992's Lawnmower Man. Lawnmower Man went all in on CGI. It was a brand new thing that was happening, and it just has I wouldn't say protracted scenes, but definitely for the time, like, significant scenes where everything on screen is computer generated. There's a lot of morphing and a lot of like blending and stuff. I recently rewatched it, and I don't know if it just had a very low budget or if like 100% of the budget went to the CGI stuff. That's what I assume happened. But it looks like an episode of The Outer Limits.
Yeah.
Like, it is, when you look at the sets, when you look at the way that the characters are positioned and everything, like, it very much looks like a TV show. This movie has everything: a hyper intelligent monkey, a person who is mentally disabled, who is undisabled in the process of doing this. Like, lots of problematic stuff here, but it's worthwhile to see where people thought that like virtual reality was going to take us. And when I was a kid, I had a VHS that was just like a bunch of CGI stuff set to music.
That was a Mind's Eye, probably.
Yeah, Beyond the Mind's Eye. And it took me years to realize that most of those things were made for Lawnmower Man, or at least some of them. Maybe like a good half of them were made for Lawnmower Man, and they made more sense in context. But yeah, if you ever want to watch Pierce Brosnan destroy some scenery, check out Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is the other half of the 3D animation on your VHS tape there, Rodrigo. Those were all for Todd Rundgren videos.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
He was big on the 3D in the day.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, those are some good starting points. Let's see what we have for number 4. Matthew, what do you have for number 4?
Like Rodrigo's number 5, my number 4 is not a good movie necessarily, but it is an engaging movie, and it's creepy AF. 1990, written by Clive Barker, and I believe directed by somebody that we know about, but I can't remember. Nightbreed. Nightbreed fascinated me because of the lore. I had never seen Nightbreed. I'd never read Cabal, which is the story from which Nightbreed springs. But all of the DC comics circa 1990 were filled with ads for Nightbreed. And it was treating it like, this was going to be the next big thing. This was the new hotness. So we would see the names and the backstories of all of the Nightbreed, these strange sort of monstrous mutated creatures who live in Midian, which is a city under, well, I want to say under a cemetery, but if you look at it literally, I think it's under the surface of the earth, and it may literally be HE double hockey sticks. I don't know. But it's the story of a young man who gets bitten by one of the Nightbreed, which turns him into a Nightbreed. And of course, anything you've ever heard about any cryptid is true about somebody in the Nightbreed. So the story here is that your vampires, your werewolves, everything, your jackalopes, every terrible creature, every chupacabra, every Sasquatch, every monstrous Gog Magog, whatever it is, was probably originated with a Nightbreed. And it has one of the most just chilling performances I have ever seen. And I can't decide whether it's a wonderful performance or whether David Cronenberg, who's primarily a director, just is not the best actor. But the character he's playing is essentially emotionless. He's this psychopathic, manipulative man who pretends to be a friendly therapist and psychiatrist and pretends that he's going to help people with their delusions when really he's going to drive them mad and see if they can lead him to this world under the world. And I got to tell you, the sight of Cronenberg spiking the camera as he does multiple times throughout this film still fills me with utter dread. Ending is kind of a mess, but if you can sit down and do what I did, find a pretty girl that you like, sit down and watch Nightbreed with her, or a pretty guy, we don't judge, whoever it is you want to sit down with, someone that you like in a vaguely romantic way. So you can hold hands, and then if somebody screams, you can be like, oh no, now we must cuddle. And then watch Nightbreed and just sit there and channel your 20-year-old self, or my 20-year-old self, whatever it is, and just be scared for a bit with somebody that you like, because this movie will do it. It's not perfect. It's not great, but man, it is scary.
Very cool. I think horror movies work best when they blend with other genres. And so my number 4 is a science fiction horror movie where a man by the name of John Murdoch wakes up with amnesia, and he stumbles across a corpse that has been mutilated in a ritualistic way, and he is a suspect of these murders. But then all of a sudden, midnight strikes, and everybody around him falls asleep, and these strangers in long, dark trench coats come out and start reorganizing the world. And suddenly Murdoch realizes that, wait a minute, it's always perpetually dark in this city. And then people start to change roles and positions in this world, and we find out that it's aliens. Dark City, 1998. It is a creepy movie just in this premise of you don't know what's going on. There's something creepy and sinister lurking around the corner, and they may care about what's going on with you. They may not care about what's going on with you, but the further you investigate, the madder you become until you break through to the other side, and then you realize that there is no hope for the world. Dark City, 1998, a great sci-fi horror movie for people to go check out. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 4?
My number 4 is, I would say, is actually a decent movie. I may be selling my list short. Starting with Lawnmower Man is just like kind of a weird lateral thing.
Yeah, let's clear your palate. Get ready for the good stuff.
Yeah.
With a little sorbet.
Yeah. So my number 4 is a movie from 1990 called Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. This movie is called Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which doesn't tell you much. It is an anthology, but because it doesn't tell you much in the title, I watched it once when I was young and then was not able to find it again for more than a decade. And I thought that I had like dreamt it for a long time until at some point, once the internet got good, I sat down and I put in a bunch of Boolean operators and figured out that it was Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. This is an anthology. It has 3 different stories. Let's see, what are they called? I lost it. One is like Lot some number. One of them is like That Darn Cat but Evil. and the other one is like Love but for Monsters. I swear I had the title. Oh, there, right here. Lot 249, The Cat from Hell, and Lover's Vow. And the one that I remember the most is Lover's Vow. I believe that it's the last story that they show you because it's the best story. The other two are okay. And it has a framing narrative as well. And it's kind of a who's who of who was working at the time. Like Debbie Harry's in it, Christian Slater's in it, Matthew Lawrence is in it, Steve Buscemi's in it, Julianne Moore is in it. So there's like you're gonna see if you go back and you're like, let me watch this weird movie that Rodrigo's talking about. You're gonna see a lot of familiar faces and a lot more familiar faces because there's also like a bunch of like character actors from the time, like Mark Margolis. I don't remember.
Mark Wallace.
Yeah. So yeah, my number 4, Tales from the Dark Side, a weird anthology horror movie that I would say is more fun than scary. But I think it obviously still qualifies as horror.
Yeah. If you want to see, you should go check out the TV show. That's what kicked off the movie, the Tales from the Dark Side TV show. I always found it fun, but it was always in syndication. And so I never knew when it was going to air. It was always something that I stumbled across and I'm like, ooh, this is on. And also, what was that other one? Friday the 13th, the series where they
Friday the 13th was around the same time.
Yeah. Where they were hunting down the cursed objects. But yeah.
Tales from the Dark Side had a bunch of Stephen King content. And in fact, the Cat from Hell is a Stephen King short story.
Yeah.
And it's just awful.
They're all good. We are moving up our top 5 horror movies of the 90s. Matthew, what do you have for your number 3?
My number 3, blah. I kind of agree with your assessment that movies that cross genres are really successful, maybe more successful as horror movies, because my number 3 is a movie that is a teen coming of age movie that could have been something with Archie Andrews, could have been something with, Mickey Rooney in it if it didn't have all the magic. And when you sit down and watch 1996, The Craft, I want you to just sit and absorb pure 90s, because this movie is not exactly what the 90s were, but it is what the 90s are, if that makes sense. This is distillation. So you'll see, the main characters are 4 young women who wear cool outfits and long coats, and at certain points they all have on schoolgirl skirts and they run around and they have their magical powers. But each of them has their particular personal, I don't want to say cross to bear, but something similar to that. Each of them has a thing that they want to be better in their life. And one girl wants to get rid of her scars, and one girl wants to get even with the racists who torture her, and one girl just wants, ultimate power so she can do whatever she wants and take over the world. Like you do. And as the film goes on, it actually has one of the characters who starts out as a very, very well-developed character, someone that you can actually approach with, someone that you can wrap your mind around and go, oh yes, I know this girl. I know girls like this, who turns into one of the classic monsters of cinema. No lie, just absolutely terrifying by the end of the film. So if you have not seen The Craft, but you have seen the sequel, be aware the sequel is cooler, but The Craft is a better movie. 1996, I want to say it's only like 100 minutes. So,
is it?
You can, yeah.
When you say The Craft, the
Craft,
the other one, are you talking about the sequel as in The Craft 2, or are you talking about the remake of The Craft?
I'm talking about The Craft Legacy, which came out like in 2023, perhaps.
Yeah. Wasn't that just basically a remake or a reimagining of that?
Sort of, kind of, maybe. It has a similar take on it, and I know that they intentionally reused a couple of iconic lines. It really is a different movie in a lot of ways, and honestly, from an acting perspective, probably a better movie. But I still maintain that the original is a scary, scary, scary movie.
Yeah.
Nothing more terrifying than a beached whale.
Yeah. All right. Okay. As I said, when you mix genres, that's when stuff gets cool. So Robert Rodriguez is this guy that is just totally independent, does everything himself, does his own music, does his own special effects, brings his friends in time and time again, and just loves doing crazy stuff. And so when this movie with George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino arrives, also, I don't know if this was the American debut of Salma Hayek, but boy, everybody sure remembers Salma Hayek from this movie. Nobody remembers Juliette Lewis or Fred Williamson, but those other three, they certainly remember. Because this movie starts out like George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino are brothers who have gotten out of jail. I forget if they gotten out of jail or just robbed a bank or whatever, but they are on the most wanted list, and they kidnap this family in their RV, and they're trying to get to Mexico, and they get to this little border town in the middle of nowhere in Mexico, and it's this little bar, and they decide to go in and crash this bar, and it's kind of a biker bar kind of thing, and it's kind of seedy and unpleasant, but that's where they're going to hide out until they can figure out what to do with this family. And of course, Salma Hayek comes out. She's got this great dance routine in it. And then all of a sudden, this thriller movie of what's going to happen with these kidnapped families suddenly turns into a horror movie as you realize everyone in the bar is vampires. And From Dusk Till Dawn is just this nonstop, the minute that the vampires appear, nonstop murder spree of how can we kill vampires and get the heck out of here and get out alive. It is fantastic. It is a great movie that is just doesn't pull any punches when it comes to cheesy special effects. And it's always fun to sit down and watch this. You don't have to sit down and watch it every year, but every couple of years, like every 10 years, sit down and watch From Dusk Till Dawn and just realize the magic we lost when too much CG came into the world. That is my
Salma had been in Desperado, which is another Rodriguez joint, like the year before. But yeah, this was I think her second movie in Hollywood with Robert Rodriguez. So
yeah. All right, cool. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 3?
My number 3, speaking of CGI, is a movie from 1996. So Lawnmower Man is in 1992, and by 1996, technology had really improved. Maybe not to perfection, but to the point where like people were really, I think, really pushing the bounds of it. And often it's sci-fi and horror movies that push the boundaries of those special effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
My number 3 is The Frighteners from 1996.
Oh, yeah. That one almost made my list because I do enjoy The Frighteners a lot.
The Frighteners, it really is more, and like I think maybe the unifying theme of my list is that these movies aren't very scary.
Yeah.
It's the Frighteners is enjoyable. It's kind of a horror comedy. And it really, really banks on a few CGI things. Mainly, if you've ever caught a glimpse of anybody talking about 90s movies and you see this person moving like in the wallpaper, like they're like caught in between the wall and the wallpaper and are sort of like moving through it. That's like that's the money stuff from the Frighteners. There's lots of other stuff. There's lots of like ghosts, and there's lots of like at some point somebody goes through a mirror and the mirror gets all like flowy and stuff. There's a lot of cool CGI shots that are made very purposefully, which I feel is really what was lacking in Lawnmower Man, right? In Lawnmower Man, it was like spectacle. In Frighteners, it's like spectacle, but for a reason, right? All the shots done to
because they enhance the story as opposed to say, "Hey, look, CGI, everybody."
Right. So this is a Peter Jackson movie.
Yep.
So go in knowing that,
and maybe knowing that Peter Jackson, before he became known as the Hobbit guy, his genre of working in was horror.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of these guys, I feel, your Peter Jacksons, your Sam Raimis, really kind of make a name for themselves in horror because they've got like the imagination and the vision to bring these things to life, and then they move it, then they bring him to like more reputable categories. Although Peter Jackson, like, is like the only successful fantasy filmmaker, basically, like, outside of Disney, maybe. So anyway, the Frighteners is very cool. Just know that it's got some gross out stuff as well. At some point, a guy pukes out his ears. That is something that happens in this movie. So go in expecting that as well. But I would say check it out. And if you watch it and you don't think the special effects hold up, just know that for 1996, this was blowing people's minds.
Yeah. As far as directors go, I think Peter Yates would like to have a word with you about that, but
all right,
that's okay.
all right.
Also, another Liam Neeson movie there, Matthew, from 1983.
Ooh, he's in that one?
Yeah, Krull. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. We are now into our number twos. Is that where we are at? Oh my gosh, Matthew, what do you have for your number two?
My number two may be the most disturbed I've ever been watching a film. Part of it is the fact that it was built up for years and years and years before I actually got to see it. Part of it was the fact that I got to see it with my kid when they were old enough to be really freaked out by it. But I think mostly it's because it is subtle up to a point. It is scary up to a point, and it keeps most of the stuff that you would consider horror kind of in the background. So it's almost like you're finding an Easter egg of the horrible things happening. And I'm referring to it's a fake documentary, what they call the mockumentary, and it was put out by the BBC of all people in 1992, Ghost Watch. Now, the thing about Ghost Watch that people take the legend is that it stars actual BBC news personalities and presenters. And they go to a supposedly haunted house in, London. And they're looking at all of these, are these things happening? Is something scary going to happen? Is there an eerie, otherworldly presence? And early on, in one of the very earliest scenes, you start hearing the phones ringing because they're in a studio. And the studio phones start ringing. People like, we saw a ghost. And they go back and we see the scene again, but it's actually a different version of the scene. The ghost was there the first time. It wasn't there the second. This is 1992. So 4 or 5% of people have a VCR to actually record something and go back and play it. It's not like today, kids. You saw your TV show and you hoped you remembered it. And if you remembered it wrong, well, then you were wrong for the rest of your natural life. But Ghostwatch eventually turns into a seance. And one of the scariest moments in the film, not one of the big key moments, but one of the scariest moments is the person who's been hired as their paranormal expert realizing on film, and you see it dawn on this actress, and she sells it so well. She's like, oh my God, we've just locked millions of people into a national seance. And I think we freed whatever was in the house through the television. And so at the end of the film, several of the characters, who again are actual BBC presenters, are missing or insane, or in one case, probably dead. And to the point where people were panicking and calling in, not realizing all of the time that this was not real, that this was actually, an entertainment program, sort of a War of the Worlds 60 years later. If you ask yourself, could this happen? Yeah, it could happen again. It could happen in 1938. It could happen when they did that nuclear war film in the 80s when Stephen and I were 15. And it happened in 1992, where big chunks of Great Britain thought that they were watching an actual haunted house, to the point where the next day, one of the characters who had disappeared had to show up on the BBC and say, I'm okay. Everything's okay. Please stop calling my family. There's no reason to panic. But boy, if you want to just sit and be unnerved by a movie, I do recommend this one. I want to say that the actual ghost or creature or whatever appears 7 times in an hour and a half. But if you watch events closely and you watch the background, there are weird things happening all the time. There's a one moment where you're just like, why are all the cups melted? And then you realize somebody said something about, oh, sometimes ghosts will attack the cutlery and the cups. And I'm like, oh, there's a ghost. Seriously, I cannot stress how scary this is. So much, no, if you go watch it, you're definitely going to be disappointed. But here's the thing. I don't care. Go watch Ghost Watch. Very, very good film.
Very good. All right. Again, as I said, mixing genres together usually leads to some really great results. And in this case, we've mentioned Sam Raimi multiple times on the show, but no one has mentioned, in my opinion, his greatest masterpiece. I am, of course, talking about Army of Darkness, where Ash gets sent back in time and he must fight the Deadites with the chainsaw on his arm and a woman at his side. Give me some sugar, baby. And it's just filled with great lines throughout the entire piece. Bruce Campbell is a master at this. It brings the Sam Raimi wackiness to this thing. So it's not only scary because you have the undead and you have the main Deadite running around, but you also have slapstick comedy in the form of the Three Stooges routine when the little miniature ashes start running around. You have a character who can't say the magic phrase and so much more. It is fantastic. When I lived in California, my friend Dave and I and his friends would get together and we just watch this thing nonstop and just shout out lines throughout the entire movie. I will say I was disappointed when the director's cut came out that had the alternate ending because it really radically changed the fun of that story. But it also left it open for all the other sequels and the comic books and other stuff to come along. But man, Army of Darkness is such a fun movie. It's got your high fantasy, your zombies, your comedies. It's a great horror movie. I recommend everybody check it out. I will say you do not need to watch the previous 2 films in the Evil Dead series, mainly because Evil Dead 2 is simply a remake of Evil Dead. So I don't know why they want to call it a trilogy, but they do, and you can go check them out. But Army of Darkness is by far the cream of the crop. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 2?
My number 2 is a Japanese animated film called Memories.
Oh, no.
Memories is another anthology series or movie, rather, that also has 3 stories in reverse scary order. We'll say they are Cannon Fodder, then Stink Bomb, then Magnetic Rose. Really, Stink Bomb and Magnetic Rose can probably fight over which one is scarier, depending on what you're more scared of. The animation, especially in Magnetic Rose, is incredible. It just looks so good, and it elevates the horror of it to a degree that would be very difficult to do in live action, even with like top tier CGI. There's just something about how it places you both in this, like simultaneously in this like cosmic, like NASA punk scary place, and also simultaneously into gothic horror. Cannon Fodder is more of a thinker. It's like kind of like a we've always been at war with Oceania kind of stuff. But the other main one, which is also scary, this is more of a uh, like, uh, I think this is like a very Gen X story. Stink Bomb is a story about a guy who accidentally becomes a chemical weapon, and it is a tough watch, I think, if you are someone who grew up with any sort of threat of like weapons of mass destruction. Um, but all three of them together are make for like a very cool couple hours to sit down and watch. I very strongly recommend it. I think each of them is directed by a different person. Cannon Fodder is directed by Katsushiro Otomo, who I think a lot of people will recognize, but Koji Morimoto and Tensai Okamura direct the other two. The screenplay for Magnetic Roses by Satoshi Kon, which if you watch stuff like Perfect Blue or Paranoia Agent, which is one of my faves, that you will recognize that name as well. So yeah, Memories, 1995, scary stuff.
Very good. We have reached the top of our charts. We are now at our number one horror movies from the 90s. And Matthew, what are you bringing to the table?
I am bringing the one that's probably going to cause the controversy because the year was 1999. And there were two people coming out of this film. One said this was incredibly terrifying, harrowing, scary, just a horrible, horrible experience. I enjoyed it greatly. And the rest went, I got dizzy. Because the Blair Witch Project is shot by the actual stars of the film with two little cameras. And of course, in universe, they are supposed to be film students who are wandering through the woods trying to make a documentary. In reality, they are three actors who've been hired and sent out into the woods to pretend to make a documentary, but also aren't being told the horrible things that the people are going to be doing to them as part of the production team. So, on the one hand, it is a truly horrifying experience because these three actors are really scared. There is actually a really notorious gross scene where where Heather, the main character, is kind of shooting up her nose, but that actually makes it, to me, feel more realistic, more grounded. I am a huge fan of the found footage genre, and I have heard every single negative thing you can say about found footage. So keep in mind, I've known Steven Schleicher since 1989. I have literally heard everything that you can hear to tell you why the found footage is a problem. And I get it. I understand it. If it makes you nauseous, that's not something you can help. But the film is effective. The ending of the film is such an O. Henry gut punch, just so bizarre and unexpected and absolutely unresolved. And while there is one good sequel, and I think four total sequels, none of them will ever get to this level. And I don't think any of them are successful because they go in trying to unravel the mystery. That last scene mystery is actually set up in one of the very first scenes of the movie. So if you're paying attention, it's like, oh, I get it. If you've never seen it and you don't have motion sickness, I highly recommend it. If you are a professional videographer, don't watch this. It'll hurt your feelings. It'll make you mad. But otherwise, definitely check out 1999's The Blair Witch Project. Wonderful movie. Really kind of struck a whole genre back into existence.
I might argue not to watch that film only because the creators got jack out of the deal. They only got 11,000 each for their performances, and then when they sued, they each got $300,000 settlement, but they never got to partake in any of the profit sharing or anything from this movie that made over $40 million. So, and this is, partly their own fault for not reading the contract, but also, I guess it made 250 worldwide. They didn't get to really partake in the success of that film. So just kind of keep that. If you want to know the scary part of that movie, it's that the actors didn't get paid what they should have been paid. Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Matthew. I could go on about all the issues with found footage, but we'll save that for another time. Oh, we should do a top 5. Steven's top 5 issues.
Top 5 problems with found footage.
Found footage. Yeah. All right.
And then my entry will just be found footage movies that I love, so that you can just tear them apart.
Yeah,
and
I will.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Found footage isn't bad in itself. It is.
No,
there's some other things with it. But
if anything, Steven's just holding it up to the standard
to a higher standard. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So my number 1 is the best adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft idea, and is the closest movie that we have to an H.P. Lovecraft movie, short of like Color Out of Space, the Nicolas Cage one from a few years ago. But generally, when we look at the H.P. Lovecraft adaptations, they don't really do well. And again, Reanimator is fine. Color Out of Space is fine. But if you want something that really embraces the weirdness that is H.P. Lovecraft, you definitely need to check out John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. Have you read Sutter Kane? So this movie has Sam Neill, Jurassic Park Sam Neill in it, and he is an insurance investigator, and he has been tasked with finding out what has happened to Sutter Kane, this Stephen King-like writer who has disappeared on the eve of the release of his new book. And there seems to be some kind of mania, gripping the country and the world for people who have read this book. And so he goes out and finds Sutter Kane in this little New England community, and things get weird. This is the third movie in John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. The Thing is number 1, which is a great movie, but came out in 1982. Prince of Darkness, an okay movie. It came out in 87, but In the Mouth of Madness, this is one that I'll watch like 3 or 4 times a year, just because I enjoy the heck out of this movie. The insanity of this movie, the fact that everybody goes insane. It's got Lionel Luthor in it. It's got Charlton Heston in it. It is a great flick for people to check out. If you want to get the vibe of an H.P. Lovecraft movie, definitely In the Mouth of Madness is what you should be watching. All right, Rodrigo, that's my number 1. What do you have for your number 1?
My number 1, I will go to the mat all day, every day for. People sometimes bash it. They say it's too campy, but I say, no, it's perfectly campy. And that is Dracula, a.k.a. Bram Stoker's Dracula, a.k.a. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. 1992, Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves, Cary Elwes, everybody. This movie has everything. Tom Waits is in it. What I appreciate about this movie is that it goes all in. There is not an ounce. This is 1992. We are solidly in absolutely lethal levels of irony poisoning, right? You can't make a movie that's earnest at this point. There has to be, at the very least, some lamp shading, a subtle wink. We're not really trying to do this. We're just kind of doing it. But this movie just goes so hard. It has multiple themes running through it, one of which is Dracula is an old-timey story, and thus old-timey film techniques are used, like irises and superimposition and things like that don't really get used in modern cinema as much. It's really something to watch. It's cool. The special effects are great. There are monsters in it. Also, it's sexy. Also, it features Keanu Reeves playing somebody named John, in every movie that he ever plays. There is really, to me, no downside. I watched this movie trying to figure out, because there's some vocal detractors of this movie. I watched this movie trying to figure out what people don't like about it, and I don't see it. If you
it's long.
take a couple, I guess, if you take a couple steps towards the movie and you meet it where it is and where it wants to be, I just find it endlessly stylish and entertaining. So yeah, That's my number one. Bram Stoker Dracula, I think, is what most people know it as. 1992.
Very cool. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. A bunch of movies to cram in just before Halloween arrives. We know you can do it. You know what else we know you can do? We know that you can head over to our Discord server. Join that Major Spoilers Discord server absolutely free. Jump into the top 5 channel and then share your top 5 horror movies from the 1990s. Why? Because everybody loves a list. Top 5 is a production of Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC, and is produced by me, Steven Schleicher. If you have any suggestions or ideas for future Top 5 topics, make sure you head over to our Discord server. Share your thoughts there.
This podcast is copyright 2025 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.